Welcome everybody. As always, please do me a favor and let me know if the audio and visual is all good on your end. Please let me know you can see the charts clearly and hear me all right. I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. Hopefully the markets are treating you guys very well. We continue to see some strength in the market, not just Bitcoin, but even more so on coins like Solana and Ethereum, which is fantastic to see, you guys, because generally speaking, when Ethereum is doing well, the majority of the market is doing very well as well. A lot of wells. All good, right on. Thank you very much. So yeah, I don't know how long of a stream this will be, but I just figured with the weekly close coming up and a few interesting signs in the charts, I just wanted to talk about a few things. So just starting off on the 4 hour with Bitcoin here. I did a stream here. What day was that? Was that Wednesday or Thursday? Something like that. I think it was Wednesday. Actually, was it Tuesday? No, it was Wednesday. I had mentioned that I think we were trading right about here, and I had mentioned that, although I'm open to the idea of going lower, and I still think the trend would be beautiful in that case, and I would be loving to look for long opportunities down there. We had this little bit of a reversal STUBER here where we broke this micro downtrend here, came back perfectly, retested a 786, and then started carrying on higher from there. So, I mean, yeah, we obviously have resistance coming up, but it's nice to see that it's potentially we broke that downtrend, right? Every one of these little red lines was where we basically set a lower low, lower low. And right here, we had another lower low. So then the highest point there would have been here. We end up breaking that rather than going straight up. We get that pullback to the 786. And then, the range itself was very small. So it was very possible we just got a little bounce and then continued to the downside. But we just continued staircasing higher from there so far. So I love to see that on the trend. And something else that caught my eye this morning is with the MDX Trendmaster indicator. You guys know I point this out pretty much every stream, is which way these signals are trending, basically. And we do have this significantly higher buy signal that printed on this indicator. And that also obviously means that from a sell signal, we got a much higher sell signal, right? And then to match up with that, we got a significantly higher buy signal. So to me, it looks like the bulls just stepped in a little bit early rather than letting us even get that full retracement back to the bottom of the range. And remember, this 4 hour range here also lines up with my weekly range, both still valid at this time. So that's why I was open to the idea of us going down to that level. I have no interest of trying to short it down to that level because it's very possible the bulls step in early, just like what we saw here, right? So at this point, basically, as long as we stay above 112, let's say closer to 111, because let's give ourselves some wiggle room from this little rally here. Basically, the 115 would be about 110.6K. So as long as we stay above that, we are looking great. And I would even say I wouldn't even really want to see us get below this this level, the 112K, basically. As long as we're staying above 112, I think this trend looks very healthy. If we lose that, I still think it's possible at that point we would retest this support of the bigger swing. That would be kind of that 104 to 101K. Is that going to happen? Again, I don't know. And I wouldn't really put money on that theory of shorting down to that level because, again, we just have, I don't really like to bet against this indicator. It's called the Trend Master indicator, but it's because it's good at pointing out a trend. And when I see these signals trending in a direction like that, I don't really want to bet against that. So to me, Bitcoin still looks fantastic. The one thing is, those of you, especially those of you in my Telegram, I mean, you guys know I'm mostly trading Ethereum lately. Ethereum's been so much stronger than Bitcoin. And you guys, that's with Bitcoin doing well. Okay. That's not to shit talk Bitcoin by any means. That's just goes to show the strength of Ethereum. So I'm going to go into that in a little bit as well. But I haven't really been focusing on Bitcoin. I once in a while, I'll look at something at this and say, yeah, you know what? Things still look healthy to me, right? On the 4 hour, things look healthy. But really anywhere from, it would be fair game to start running into resistance anywhere from basically 120K up to 125K. That 120 to 122. That would be our Stuber fib if we pull from our current all-time highs to where this little rally bottomed, or this little dump bottomed out. And then from basically 123 to 125, that gets to our 115 invalidation of this bearish Stuber, right? So it's not that I am bearish, but we have to be a little bit cautious as we approach this. Here, I gotta clean some of this up for you guys. Sorry. Let me get rid of some of these and also this indicator. But yeah, if I pull that fib from the all-time highs to where this little downtrend bottomed so far, I mean, that's where my Stuber fib pocket is. That's where my swing fail, liquidity grab, fake out territory zone would be, right? But again, I'm less interested in trading Bitcoin. At that point, if we got a perfect swing fail kind of a setup with a, let's say, a bearish divergence, or even just a swing fail, I would consider taking a stab at a bit of a short at that point with a tight invalidation, but it wouldn't even be me being bearish at that point. It would just be me looking for a tight invalidation setup. But as it stands right now, I mean, it's just important to pay attention to that resistance, right? But again, my focus has been mostly on Ethereum and Solana these days. But I do want to look at the weekly chart first with Bitcoin as well. So the structure that we have here, you notice I have this yellow line here. I don't actually consider this a higher low, just like I never considered this a higher low up here. Just because of how the structure is. Currently, this was our high. This is our higher high. The higher low for me, the confirmed one, is down around 98,000 US dollars. And if we end up getting a new higher high, let's say with this weekly close, it gets volatile and goes up there, or next week we set a new higher high, whatever. If that happens, then we bring up our confirmed higher low to this yellow line that I have, and that's around 112K. So that would be a nice jump in the market structure like that. That would be beautiful to see. And I have a feeling it's just a matter of time. It's just as it stands right now, the reason I'm pointing this out on the weekly, it's just a little cleaner than the 4-hour. But when you look at it this way, I mean, we have this fib, right? So even if the market pulls back towards $98,000, it's still very healthy. That would just be retesting support of the current uptrend on the weekly chart. And guys, this is all kind of stuff that I do talk about in my Telegram channel. You know, if you do want to if you're more so trading based on charts rather than fundamentals and that sort of stuff, you want to see more examples of my strategies, some of my trade setup ideas, more examples of how I view the market structure, and you just want more of my overall thoughts in general about the markets, do yourselves a favor and get in the Telegram. I'm sharing a lot of content in there lately, a lot of Stuber setups. Currently in a Ethereum long. Still in it for now. I'll get into that in a little second here. But that was laid out in advance last night. So again, if you do like how I point out market structure and just want more of that, do yourselves a favor and get in there, guys. But yeah, like things are still looking great. And on the weekly, like I said, we could pull back drastically here and still be very healthy. Looking at Bitcoin, this is a setup I actually laid out in the Telegram as well. We never quite came down to the 786. I never even set an order on it. Like I said, I've been mostly trading altcoins, but I did point it out anyways. If you were front running your fibs, or you noticed something else as we got down towards that level, then maybe somebody caught that long position based on that. Either way, if you did end up taking a long from that area, I would obviously be taking some profits along the way, because that's a beautiful move. Again, these are I'm more so looking at 5-minute setups and that sort of thing when I'm pulling fibs. So just remember to trade the time frame you're actually trading, right? If I pull a fib like this, that means my targets are on the fibs, right? My first 2 targets. And then if the remaining half of the position takes off from there and it's a home run trade, fantastic. But I'm at least treating these setups as a scalp setup, basically trading the range first and hoping for a breakout after. But yeah, that played out beautifully. Unfortunately, never quite hit the 786. So a lot of people who were trying to play that probably missed it. Like I said, I never took it, but it's still nice to see that it's the same thing, guys, right? I mean, the whole idea about these Stuber fibs are basically, it's not so much that it's a magical number or anything like that. It's just a reminder to after there's a break in structure, it's okay to wait for a pullback, right? So we have this high here and we have this higher high, pull a fib from here to here, right? From our lowest point between the two to our new high. And that's where it's okay to wait for that pullback, right? Rather than being one of those people who, okay, we broke resistance here, time to long the shit out of this right here. And then you pull back down here. And then you were right about your theory. It's just that you never got that pullback, right? You FOMO'd into it and probably had too tight of a stop loss and got stopped on the way, even though the idea is correct. That's more so what I love about using Fibonacci's, right? Because it's just with that market structure break, it's not so much that we have to come back down to those levels, but it's just a reminder to wait for some sort of a correction to happen after the structure breaks, and then you have momentum on your side, right? That's the whole point of looking at this as a continuation play, is that, hey, since we have a higher high, we have that structure that this should favor the upside. But that's where on the pullback, I want to be laddering back in, basically. Usually I do something like this. And then, bringing my average entry down somewhere in there if I am going to get stopped out. But to each their own, right? Like I said, it's just more so a way that, hey, structure broke. Now I'm waiting for some sort of a correction. And when you use Fibonacci's or some sort of a Fibonacci system, it takes the guesswork out of it, right? As long as you have a certain strategy where you pull the fibs, then it takes the guesswork out. It's, hey, these are the levels that always seem to get respected. I have my entry levels on here. I have my take profit levels. So it just helps you keep a clearer head, I guess. That's what I really love about using Fibonacci strategies, is just how simple it is. It keeps everything simple. And those of you guys in my Telegram, if some of you guys are in here with me right now, I mean, you'll see how many that I posted in the last couple of days. I mean, I think it was 3 nights ago, I ended up posting 3 setup ideas at the same time. They were all long STUBER setups on 5-minute charts. One was Bitcoin, one was Solana, and one was Ethereum. And at the end, it was about a day later. This goes to show, again, why I'm trading altcoins rather than Bitcoin right now. But we had the same setup on all 3 of those pairs on the 5-minute chart. And Bitcoin ended up pumping in one day about 2%. Solana pumped about 5%, and Ethereum pumped about 10%. So again, that's why I've been more focused on Ethereum lately. Another reason is, you guys know, every stream I always bring up the Bitcoin dominance ever since we ended up breaking this big uptrend here, ever since we started dropping off of a cliff. I mean, this is just another sign. The fact that Bitcoin is damn near at all-time highs right now, with literally the dominance of it is dropping so drastically. That's a beautiful divergence to have, right? When the focus isn't even on Bitcoin and it's climbing basically without trying, right? That's what we love to see. And this looks so good for the altcoin market. And that's also why I was watching this downtrend, right? This is the Ethereum versus Bitcoin pair. And I mentioned this when we were basically when Ethereum was breaking above $2,000. It was also lining up with this chart here that we broke this diagonal resistance. We broke horizontal resistance, and then we've just been staircasing higher, right? Ethereum versus Bitcoin has just been staircasing higher. And that's why I said, even though Bitcoin's doing great, right? It's nothing against Bitcoin, but since the end of April, Ethereum has outperformed Bitcoin by 110%, basically. And that's with Bitcoin doing well, right? That just goes to show the strength of altcoins right now. And that's very natural for, after Bitcoin does smash its all-time highs and it's a confident breakout, and you start to enter that phase of the market cycle, just like last market cycle and the one before. After Bitcoin breaks all-time highs, that's when the altcoins really start to go nuts a little bit, right? That's where they become a little bit safer, and where profits start to diversify a little bit. People's risk appetite goes up. They're willing to get into more dangerous things, right? So it's very natural. That's just kind of the phase of the market cycle that we are in right now. So that's why I've been loving Ethereum. Another thing I want to point out with Ethereum on the price right now, you guys, on the daily chart, bringing up the Trendmaster indicator. So we do have a lower buy signal here, which it obviously played out beautifully. But what's interesting right now is the previous sell signal that we had, right? When we had a trending down sell signals on the daily. So yeah, these are very large ranges here. But this was a lower sell, and we've technically just broke that level. So that's a big sign to me that we're starting to break some very serious resistance right now on Ethereum, based on the Trendmaster indicator. Also with Bollinger Bands, you guys, just a bit of a breakout strategy here, but basically this is now the third time here with the 20 MA, the 20 moving average going through the middle of the channel here. Notice that it's favoring the upside, right? It's been curling to the upside for a while now, or just trending to the upside. And whenever these bands break apart, it's basically suggesting that, incoming volatility, whichever way that goes, I mean, it's yet to be determined, right? But so the last two times we've found support off that 20 moving average as the bands expand like that, implying increased volatility. And then we get a daily candle close outside of that band. I mean, it's called the last two very nice moves to the upside here, and we're actually just doing it with yesterday's daily candle here ended up breaking out above, and the bands are expanding again. So obviously this does not have to play out the exact same, but it's just suggesting to me that, with Ethereum looking very strong right now on every time frame, even on the daily, it looks like it's about to break out again. And on top of that, I mean, we did break a new high, right? Not all-time highs, but just on this climb here, this market structure here, we've set a new high, staircasing higher with the expanding bands, right? There's just a lot of things suggesting that, Ethereum can go higher there. Like I said, I shared this setup in the Telegram, I think when we were trading about here last night, and basically outlined this little fib here. Ended up hitting my first target, right? We ended up bouncing, got in, laddered at the 786, 886 as per usual, never hit my next two orders, but that's okay. So my average entry is basically in the middle of that pocket, ended up hitting my first target. And from there, we're just going to see what happens. I'm willing to hang on to it without changing my stop loss for now. So we'll see what happens with that. Solana as well. Let's take a look at Solana. I know I've been quite vocal about this one as one that I'm interested in catching a running position on as well, just because I see no reason with how the market conditions are right now. I just really feel like Solana is eventually going to test its macro resistance again. And that STUBER fib basically starts around $250. So obviously it doesn't have to, but just the way that Bitcoin reached its macro resistance, and then Ethereum reached its all-time high macro resistance, not the actual all-time highs, but the STUBER fib of that. And now I just kind of assume that Solana is going to have a retest of its STUBER fibs up here as well. So that's why I'm interested in catching a bit of a running position. If I can catch a scalp on Solana again, all of my Solana positions are currently closed. I took profits on all of them, but I'm going to be looking for more scalps and just hoping that part of it turns into a runner, basically, just like I do with most trades. Just want to take a look at a couple more things, then I'm going to catch up on the chat a little bit. Guys, this is where it gets a little more degenerate. I want to give you a full-on degen alert here. I know not everybody's into meme coins, not everybody's into low cap market cap coins or anything like this. But some of you will remember I was talking about troll coin, I mean, a month or two ago, and more recently, and even in my Telegram, I've been talking about it a little bit. This thing has been on an absolute moon mission. Now, I don't want to be the guy to strike FOMO into people and say buy now as it's up 20x already, but I do just want to talk about this as another form of trading, just because it's something that I mentioned in my Telegram yesterday as well. Basically, I was using the MDX Trendmaster strategy with looking at these higher trending buy signals. And we ended up losing that support here, right? So our highest buy signal, we got our reversal here. So when we ended up breaking this level, I actually ended up selling a quarter of my bag of this on the retest. And then as the price dumped, it ended up dumping, what was it from there? I think about 20%, 18% or so. So I sold some of my coins, but after about 10 to 15%, I just bought back extra coins. So that's another, I was willing to accept that this thing could have kept dumping off of a cliff, and I could have lost, a bunch of value in that bag. But I look at that, that's more of a spot hold. That's a moon bag that I'm already up like 15x on that. I have no risk involved on that at this point. But I want to build more of them because it's one of the only meme coins that actually makes sense to me just because of the culture behind it. But that's not with trading with leverage, but that's just another way of trading, right? I'm still using technicals the same, but rather than looking for profits the way I do with leverage, that's more of an investment for me. So I'm looking at accumulating more for free, right? So as the price tumbled there, when we lost the trend of that indicator, it was an easy sell signal for me to sell some of it, not all of it. If it would have just mooned from there, I could have bought back in and lost a few coins, but instead, it went down, and between 10 and 15%, I started buying back and accumulated extra coins for free. So that's actually how I started trading. When I got into the game of trading and knew that I was going to suck as I first started, that was basically a way for me to look at things with a level head and not get super emotionally attached to positions, because rather than thinking of it as, money on the line, I was looking at it as I want to build a collection of these coins, and that just helped me able to keep a level head around it. So I was coin collecting, and then I turned that knowledge into trading with leverage. But I still do that with my long-term holds, or even short-term to mid-term holds. Like, that's still a way that I like to trade sometimes. So that's just an example of that. And yeah, this is one of those coins. I really think that the dips are going to get bought back up on this extremely heavily, just because, there seems to be a lot of FOMO around it right now. It's one of the most OG memes that comes to mind for me. I can't really think of a more recognizable meme rather than that troll face. So the fact that momentum's on its side right now, that's something that I'm just looking to hopefully sell before some dips, and then just accumulate more for free and then see, because I just have a feeling this is going to be one of those good meme coins this cycle, and we'll see from there. Obviously, do your own research, form your own decisions, because like I said, I don't want to be one of those guys shilling meme coins at people by any means. I'm just looking at it I'm just telling you how I'm going about doing this, because I think that's, even if it's not with this coin, I just want that to be a valuable lesson that, if you are accumulating a coin that you like, for example, that's a way that you can build a bigger coin collection without actually having to buy more, right? Just taking those easy drops and just willing to sell and buy it back a little bit lower. Just don't get greedy and have invalidations, just like leverage trading, right? If we would have invalidated this, I would have bought back in with a little bit less tokens, and it would have been just considered it a lost trade, right? So that may actually help some people. If you have a hard time getting around your emotions with trading with leverage, consider a coin collection thing, just to kind of get used to trading. But you don't necessarily need to be shorting and longing and stuff, right? You can just try and build a bag. All right, I will start catching up on the chat here. First of all, thank you guys for being here with me. Hopefully you're all having a fantastic day. Let me know how you're all feeling about the markets right now. Are you guys also bullish like me? Do you think that I'm on the wrong side of things right now? Do you think we're about to top the cycle? How do you all feel? Sorry, I'm finally catching up with questions. So I do see the question about the RSI now. I will answer that in a sec. And Habu, thanks for doing these FIB videos. You appreciate it. Right on. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you being here with me. So thank you for joining. Yeah, everyone obviously has their own trade strategies. Everyone has their own way of trading. Like, we could have the same fibs, we'd have the same indicators, the same trend lines and everything, and I promise we'd trade these markets completely different. So make sure you do what works for you, right? Always do back testing and that sort of stuff. But yeah, going to the question about the RSI, I will go on the weekly just because that's where it's mostly had my attention lately. Could you please explain how you use the RSI? I see in some video you mentioned about going over 70. Why is that important? Also, does that level affect a divergence? Does it validate or invalidate? So basically, Often people refer to the 70 level as being overbought and the 30 level as being oversold. Now, there's a little bit of a misunderstanding there, and it's easy to mix up because generally, if you are in an uptrend and you have the RSI does not care about that 70 level and it goes overbought, that's actually just showing that there's a ton of strength in the market, right? The RSI stands for Relative Strength Index. So if you're ever getting above this level in an uptrend, that's showing that there's a ton of strength. If on the other hand, you're actually in a downtrend and you end up hitting that overbought conditions, that's significantly different. Then I agree 100% that it is overbought. But it really depends which way the trend is going. But yeah, basically the idea of the divergence, which this is actually a time where it never really worked out. Um, Actually, I shouldn't say that. I did make a bit of a mistake here looking at this RSI, to be honest, because we weren't quite at the 70 level. I did jump the gun on that a little bit. But that's just a very specific divergence that I do look for. Like the one that we have now, that's very clearly off the 70. And that's one reason why I have a bit of concerns right now, just because we're obviously dropping our strength. That being said, it's also kind of in a hidden way, we've broke and invalidated that resistance back here that we had when we had more strength, right? So um, a little bit of mixed signals with this one, but that's why I only really use it with specific double top formations, just like if they're a bullish one from oversold, for example, up to the 30 level. If I have that with a double bottom, that's a sign for me that I love going long on that. And it's not that it's going to work every time by any means, but it is a setup that I look for often. But right now we have the divergence, but we don't have the structure matching up with it. So for me right now, it's not that important. But yeah, basically with the RSI, especially on the longer time frames like the weekly, generally speaking, I mean, the market trends up a lot more than it trends down, right? So over the long term, this is generally an uptrend. So every time we get into that overbought conditions, it's just showing that there's a ton of strength in the market, right? Even back here, as soon as we got over that 70 level, I mean, the market just shot up for a few weeks, right? Yeah, eventually we come back down, but same thing here, right? As soon as we got overbought, right, as we were testing about here, just absolutely exploded. Same thing back here. As soon as we started going overbought, that's when we started seeing a ton of strength. So that's why I say in an uptrend, when the RSI is above that 70 level, that's really where it's a big sign of strength. However, if you were in a longer term bear market, you're trending to the downside and you hit that 70 level, then yeah, it's going to be overbought a little bit. Hopefully that kind of, sorry if I confused you. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Like basically for me, let's say when I really look for that type of a setup, it's like, let's say I have something like this where an uptrend got broken, right? We lose a higher low like that. And then we come back up to double top territory, whether that's like a 886 or the top or even a 115, whatever. We come up to that level like that. And we start closing red candles there, where the RSI would be doing something like, let's say at our top there, we were way overbought. So we had a ton of strength showing there. And then let's say we'd go somewhere like that. And then the second time we end up testing that resistance, we do so with significantly less strength, right? Something like that. So that's basically my signal that, hey, if we're closing a double top, we're seeing candles getting rejected at resistance after we lost an uptrend, and we are attacking the same resistance we could not break here with this much strength. Why would we break that same level of resistance with significantly less strength, right? So that's kind of my way of looking at that. But that's more so, like I said, a double top pattern that includes that divergence. It's not necessarily just the divergence on its own. Adrian, biddy to 128K. I could see it. If it goes that high, I think it's going higher, to be honest, because I think that liquidity grab zone I have to my bearish 115 would be about 125K. So if we break that, I think it'll go a little higher. Hope for a nice alt season. I agree. And I think that even when, here, let me get back to my chart, I suppose. Even when Bitcoin does end up topping and pulling back a little bit, I know you and I have talked about this a couple times, Adrian, that when Bitcoin ends up topping and getting a bit of a rejection, I do still think altcoins will get their one finale run. It's happened. It doesn't have to, but it's happened the last couple of cycles, and I expect the same thing to happen this cycle. Basically, that one last little money shuffle, one last push to get what you can get out of the market, and then bear market from there. So when they end up running out of steam, then it's straight nuke town for the market, basically. But I don't see any signs for that at this point. Basically, right now, we would have to drop below 98K for me to get a little bit concerned. If we climb a little bit higher, then that would change to that 112K level. That's where I would start to be concerned if we lost that. But at this point, it's still the 98K level just because of where the structure is in the chart. Hernan, no. Got wiped on a trade. That's no good. Have I tried scalping on the 1 minute chart? I've traded on the 1 minute chart a lot. I find that my sweet spot is the 5 minute. And yeah, back to the RSI question there. Am I saying I like to see a double top with a bearish divergence? Otherwise, I don't worry too much about that divergence. Yeah, that's basically it. Like, it's a very specific pattern that I look for that divergence with. Doesn't always work, but I've had some good success with that exact strategy. So again, if you're going to try and trade it, make sure you back test it, right? Make sure you're looking at things the same. As far as trading any strategy, you should always be back testing before throwing any actual money at some positions. Can you please have a look at the Phil USD monthly chart? Ooh, big time frame. What do you think about reaching the 50% to 618 retrace from 2021? Also, the IOTA chart looks very interesting. All right, BMO, let's do this. We will start with Phil. You say the monthly chart. Holy. I'm used to a 5 minute here. Oh my. Sorry, I gotta take a look at this here. That is at like perfect support. Even had this little liquidity grab here, like a very, very small wick below. Closing a green, and now another green one. That, I mean, that's interesting. I would rather be a buyer than a seller. And if I know nothing about this project, I want to be clear about that. Like, if fundamentals are a thing, I have no idea. But as far as a support level, oh baby. I honestly can't even give you a guess if this would end up hitting, the 0.5 or 618, for example. I like to see it do something like that. That'd be a fun little 100x to catch. Yeah, honestly, I wish I could give you any insight to that. to whether or not I think it's possible. I have no idea what the fundamentals are like in any ways. As far as structure goes, I mean, at least it's at support right now. It's just, I don't know if this thing's going to run that long where it would make that size of a move or anything. I have no idea. Like, as far as a STUBER fib goes. Oh my lord. The thing is, when it gets that size, you'd almost have to log scale it. Does that work? Like, we're obviously way below the STUBER fib, but yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, I can't even give you like an invalidation or anything because my fibs just don't even work for that kind of a thing. But yeah, basically, let's put it this way. On the monthly chart, it is at support. If this is a coin that's going to survive and it has anything bullish going for it, I mean, this looks like an absolutely amazing buy to me on the longer time frame. But again, I know nothing about it. IOTA, you said. Is this the biggest chart for IOTA? Because that is an interesting chart. Oh, is this yeah. Oh boy. Let's redo this. Let's use a different chart. Go to the monthly. So yeah, same kind of thing, right? Is it's clearly at a very strong support level. That's just always been its support level. So same thing, right? I say, and I'm going to say the same thing as far as the fundamentals too. I know nothing about it. I have no idea if there's anything bullish going for it or anything. But yeah, as far as basic structure goes, it's at support. Can't really argue that. If I zoom in, look at the daily, we are technically right below the 886 right now. What's the trend master looking like? Same thing. It's looking like, yeah, we're starting to print higher buy signals, I guess technically lower. Little bit of mixed signals there, but it does look like it's starting to build some sort of momentum to me. What's the 4 hour looking like? What do we got going on here? So this is one of those signs that I love to see on the Trendmaster indicator, is where we had this obvious downtrend, right? Lower sells, lower buy signals. And now we printed a higher sell signal and a couple of higher buy signals. So basically, as long as the price can stay above 17 cents, I would say, I'll make that pink as well to line up with my buy signal there. But yeah, basically, I would want to see us hold this support as a higher low at this point. If we end up losing that, then I would start looking for more, maybe down just a little further, closer to the 886, around 15 cents, somewhere in there. But yeah, I like to see this. And obviously, like, if we take off some indicators and just do, not everybody loves trend lines, but I'm sure we can find some sort of a clean trend line break like that, right? Where we have at least 3 touch points and then flip that into that resistance support flip basically, and boom, back to the upside. So yeah, not looking too bad. Even where it bottomed there. Yeah, check this out. Well, even here too. Is that one, did that one play out? Oh, so it never quite bounced to the 0.5. So that might still very well be in play. I guess that's the same as the fib that I mentioned earlier. But then even this fib that we had here, I mean, that would have been a beautiful one to catch, right? It's obviously already played out. Momentum is on its side still. But yeah, getting into this fib down here, and it obviously hit the 2 range targets. So it's crazy how often you see that type of structure show up, right? I mean, whether it's Bitcoin or stocks or commodities or random meme coins with only a couple $100,000 market cap, like you see this structure all over the place, where when you break structure to one side, you more often than not end up retracing almost that entire move. And that's often what wrecks so many people, right? Because people, like the market always looks strongest at resistance, just like it always looks weakest at support. So people love trying to play breakouts, but then you get that retest and they panic out of their positions, even if they were right. So that's where using fibs like this, it's not going to work out every time by any means, but at least then your losses are controlled and you understand the reasoning why it's happening, right? Sorry, let me just catch up on the chat a little bit. Can't get into the Telegram with your boyfriend's user ID. If you contact the Financial Summit on Telegram, they can help you out with that. If you just give them your user ID, they can switch it over if that's something that interests you. But yeah, contact them on Telegram. Should be easy to do. Do I look at the 50 on the RSI level for anything, like for a rebound or anything? No, I see a lot of people use the RSI, like looking at the mid-range bounces and stuff. And no, I only really use the RSI for very specific setups, just because it's one that I've back tested a lot of. So if I haven't back tested it, I'm not really guessing. And like, I know everyone has their own ways of using the RSI, right? Just I don't typically play the 50 level. I more so look for those specific divergences. What do I look for on the 5-minute chart to place my orders? Basically, I want to be playing whatever direction I feel the 4-hour is moving, and then basically waiting for some sort of structure break. Like if it's on a pullback on a 5-minute, I want to see like a micro lower high, like a micro confirmed lower high, the way that I was showing structure earlier. I need to see that invalidated, basically, so that then I know when to start looking for my pullback. Also, there's ways that I look for it on, let's say, Ethereum. I use the Trendmaster a lot of the times, right? That's the reason why I had this fib pulled last night, actually, was because we had this higher trend of buy signals, right? I was playing this whole trend to the upside because this indicator made it very clear that we just had sell signals and buy signals trend into the upside for a couple of days there. So every time we would get a new buy signal, I would be pulling fibs just in case we would get a pullback like that. And just assuming that, hey, if we were going to continue the trend, we wouldn't really lose this support, the newer higher buy signal, basically. So that's just a way that I use some of my indicators as confluence to help me decide when to pull fibs as well. Just looking for additional setups, basically. So there's a couple different ways, different reasons for me to pull the trigger, but basically it comes down to if I have a certain indicator confluence worth pulling a Fibonacci for me, and then I can set my orders, or I have certain structure breaks that then I'm waiting for that pullback, and then I can set my orders for those levels. So a couple different ways. Then it also depends if I feel like the market's more volatile than normal and doing like swing fails more, for example, like testing the extremes of the ranges. then I'll set alerts and just wait for swing fails. Like if I feel like the range is too volatile and dangerous, I'll just look for those plays where I can get in. Like let's say right now, rather than getting in on at fib pocket, it wouldn't have happened, but get into a position down here, and that way the invalidation is so tight. If your average entry is somewhere way down there, that's where, even though it's not always going to play out, and you often get stopped out very quickly on a position like that, but if it's going to hold, that's where you can get in those like 10-1 or 20-1 risk reward setups, right? So just because the invalidation is so tight. Brian, hey Stu, any chance you could check out Supra on the daily and weekly? Absolutely, brother. Is this the one we looked at last time? Ooh, I believe it is. And look at that. I see it on the 4 hour already. You might know where I'm going with this. I'm going to start with the 4 hour just because that's where I am and I see it already. But yeah, notice again, just as far as a micro downtrend, right? Low, lower, low, lower, low. We ended up breaking that level. So at that point, we broke resistance there on a micro time frame, right? But then I pull my fib there and look where we end up finding support, right? Right in that 786, 886 fib pocket. So just like what I was talking about with Bitcoin, I think last stream I was mentioning that, something to be cautious of is that it could pull back all the way to this fib level. It got pretty damn close actually, but we broke structure early. And that again was our early warning sign that we had potential entry, something like that, right? So yeah, obviously now it's capped in hindsight, it's a little late, but that's just an example of how I look at that structure. This isn't a coin that's been on my radar, but as far as looking at it for STUBER fibs and just seeing how important these very, like what I'm going to consider a very micro structure break right here, right? But it's an early warning sign that it's not even the fact that we're going to come back down to this fib level. That does not have to happen. It's more so if it happens, we have a tight invalidation risk setup type of a long position, right? With structure on our side because we broke to the upside. So that's more the reasoning there. Just like I was talking about before, it's not so much that it's magical numbers or anything like that. It's just a reminder that after structure breaks, it's totally normal to end up seeing that retracement. And that's where people end up getting scared out of their positions. And if you're waiting for those, you understand why they're coming back, right? And then you take your profits along the way so that if we do come back again, you can either, if you're not comfortable with your position, you can stop the rest out at break even. Boom, you made profit on the way either way, right? So we hit take profit 1 at the 0.5 and take profit 2 at the 214. The 214 target would be the opposite 786 basically, right? Look at them overlapping right there. So that's kind of the reasoning for that target, basically. I mean, I know I say it's not magical, but it's kind of magical when you think about it. Reading the future. Can you check Buttcoin? I will check Buttcoin in a little bit. Is it this one? Because goddamn, that's at a nice support level. We are getting so degen. Guys, I want everyone in the chat right now to understand that we are getting very degen here, and that's fine. I love it. But just understand, guys, that not everyone just wants to look at Bitcoin, right? It's always fun to look at more of these opportunities, and sometimes these YOLO gambles are fun, but please understand that's exactly what these low cap meme coin trash is, right? It's the Solana casino. So just understand it for what it is. But I will absolutely stay and look at some of these for entertainment value. WTF is this 2017? Why are we on IOTA? Hey man, a good chart's a good chart. But yeah, I remember looking at that one in like 2018, I think. I will look at Bitcoin in a sec as well. I'm just catching up on some more chat here. Do I actively scan the market to find trades, or do I usually stick to coins I'm familiar with? Usually with coins I'm familiar with. Honestly, some coins, if there's low liquidity or low trading volume, like especially if you're using leverage, I mean, you can cause slippage on yourself. You can get liquidated even with your stop loss and profits. It's happened to me. Like, I usually stick with a few coins that I'm comfortable with, especially like right now, for example. Like I said, I've been mostly trading Ethereum and Solana because I've been paying attention to them. And I know now, like in general, with these STUBER fib setups, for example, Ethereum's generally respecting them more aggressively. It's getting larger moves and faster moves than Bitcoin. So it's just I'm familiar with that coin a little bit at this point, right? Yeah, as far as Bitcoin goes here, if this is the right one, obviously, if we just pull a fib like this, I mean, either way, we're near a support level. Has there been any? Let's zoom right in here. This is the 4-hour. So this would have been the last lower low, right? Because we had this low, this low, this low. That means this was our confirmed lower high on the trend. Pull the fib from the lowest point between the two, gives us something like this. We came so close to that 786. How big is that move? To the 0.5, that was a 10% move right there. So yeah, as far as the 4-hour goes, hey, at least it's broke some structure, right? Structure is what it is. Obviously, the first target has already been hit for something like that, because if I was trading with leverage, remember I'm taking profits along the way. So yeah, like I said, market structure just works on things, whether it's Bitcoin, stocks, meme coins, Buttcoin, whatever. It's wild how often structure actually works out. Take a look back at Ethereum again. So Ethereum does have a bit of a warning here with a lower sell signal. I'm tempted to exit the rest of my position there. Whatever. At least I took some of the risk off the table. Solana doing okay. Oh, that's the daily chart still. What's the 5-minute looking like for Solana? Oh. Solana, what do we have here? If I was looking for support on Solana right now, I'd be basically pulling a fib something like this, which means if the uptrend's going to continue on the shorter time frames here, I wouldn't want to see the price go down below basically $176.40. If we drop down below that, then we might be retracing a little bit more of this move. But this, I like how we had this structure here. Same thing, right? This is going to be micro analyzing once again, you guys, but again, just to show how good this like basic market structure gets respected, is we had this low, we had this slightly lower low. This would be that level that broke. And after that happened, notice what the price did. I don't think it actually came back down to this fib ever. No, not quite. The 786 would be, it would be right down here, and it never quite got back down there. But again, as far as that's where the downtrend broke, so if I was in a short for whatever reason, that's where I would be looking at least taking some profits. But notice that is the first time it happened on this whole trend here, right? Same, the opposite happened here, high, higher, high. We ended up losing that higher low, and then we set, this was our next lower low, then our next lower low. Actually, I should say this one, which confirms this as our lower high, then this lower low, confirming this as our lower high, this lower low, this lower high, this lower low, this lower high. And as soon as we broke that, we got a nice little recovery, right? It's micro analyzing, but that just goes to show how accurate structure gets respected in the crypto markets. It's absolutely wild. I want to keep my eyes on this Ethereum here. I would love to see this continue climbing to the upside because, like I said, that daily just looks primed to break out. And if I can get into a position with a scalp-sized risk like that and hopefully catch a nice big move on the daily out of a 5-minute entry like that, I would love to see it. What's Troll doing? Troll, we got to see, even Troll Coin respected this STUBER fib like I mentioned earlier. Cat with Mask. This is another fairly popular one on Twitter, I believe. Again, a total low market cap meme coin. Also, guys, I want to be clear about this. If you are trading with meme coins, like low cap meme coins that have low volume, understand that probably not a good idea to ape with large size into those kinds of coins because you might cause a bunch of slippage on yourself. Again, I'm not even recommending people trade meme coins. I do it, but it's dangerous. So many of them rug pull straight to zero so quickly and stuff like that. So there's only certain ones that I trade. And most of it's just trading with spot, but I do hold some of them. Sometimes when I book profits, I'll throw it into the Solana casino because sometimes you get those nice ones, right? Like I said, with Troll, I know I was talking about it a couple months ago, and basically it was basically in a STUBER fib. Same thing, right? We ended up breaking some market structure, whether you want to say it was this one or up here. Either way, as soon as we broke that downtrend, that's where I get my fib pull, and eventually we come down. I was loading up on some Troll down here, and then it absolutely took off. I didn't know it was going to take off like that. I was just looking at, well, whatever, we'll see what happens, right? It's the Solana casino, and it's on a straight moon mission, and it keeps basically the market structure just keeps updating. It just keeps staircasing higher, and currently it has a much higher low at this point. So again, they're all dangerous. They're super volatile. Even something like Troll, when it was looking like it's on a parabolic run, this day I think it pulled back like 40% in one day, but then it was all-time highs the next day. So just understand the risk and the volatility involved with meme coins, right? It's crazy. Bitcoin still looking great, right? Ever since, like I said, we found that support there. ALGO Master is also okay. So that would be the same as the Bollinger Bands. Basically hasn't quite broke out yet, but it looks like it's suggesting that we're going to see some volatility increasing because those bands are spreading apart, right? How about ETC versus BTC? Do you mean Ethereum Classic? Is that ETC? Hive stock. There's a good one. Hive stock, BTC miner. Okay, let's check out. Hopefully, let me know if I'm not on the right chart. Hopefully I am. Well, I would say it's got a nice uptrend right now. That's really all I can say about it, because down here we broke that downtrend, right? Low, lower low, lower high, broke it. So even if we pulled back, I don't think it would be the end of the world. But is it going to happen? I don't even know, because really it might be something like this. If we pull back, we might see support step in from the range above, right? So yeah, as it looks right now, let me actually zoom out even further to the weekly. Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean, I have no idea what the fundamentals are at these days or how they're doing or anything. But yeah, if that could get back up to even the 214 target, that would be a 10x from here, basically. So on the macro time frame, obviously we are chilling at support, basically, right? unless the miners are going to have to capitulate for some reason or something. I don't know. But yeah, as far as it looks right now, it looks like it's broke a nice downtrend, and it's on the longer time frames. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It is closer to support than it is resistance. That's for sure. Trendmaster indicator also starting to try and print buy signals. It's struggling a little bit, but it does look like it's trying to get something going here. So indicator trying to build support there. Let's look at the 4 hour. This is actually a nice little trend here. And this is actually one of those times, like I said, sometimes I'll use the indicators for helping me pull fibs as well. Since we now have higher sell signals and higher buy signals, I would like to use this pivot basically from this previous buy signal right here. This is where we found our support for that pivot. So I wouldn't mind pulling a fib, something like that. In which case support would start around $1.80. $1.80 down to $1.60 basically. That's where I would hope to see support stepping in. Still chance for a liquidity grab. There's still a chance that, you know, it is actually the full range that gets tested. But I would like to see this uptrend held of higher trending buy signals. That would at least show some good strength in the market, right? Is my whiff bag gonna make me homeless? I will take a look at whiff. That's dog whiff hat, right? I don't know what the best chart would be for this. Let's just go to this one. I mean, to me, it looks like it broke a downtrend. I mean, anything can happen, obviously. And it's not that I've had the best luck on most memers. I'll give it that. But we obviously broke several resistance levels and then flipping that resistance into support. Like the fact that we broke above this whole range here, basically, I think that's a good sign at least. My one concern would be that since having that uptrend, we also lost an uptrend, and notice where we ended up getting rejected right there. So it makes sense why it saw that pullback, because technically that is literally a perfect textbook STUBER fib bearish short setup, is that structure right there. But it's played out already, right? It hit the 0.5. It hit basically the 214. So I would say that's already played out. So at this point, as long as the meme coin market's going to stay healthy, I don't see why we wouldn't find a bounce somewhere in that area. Again, not financial advice. Meme coins are a total gamble. It doesn't take much to move them a lot of times. So it's very possible it's more volatile. It ends up hitting support a little bit lower there, which if that was going to happen, it would still be healthy in my opinion, but that is a 55% correction to the downside. And that's on the daily chart. Again, not saying we have to go there, but it's possible. But I think as far as where the market cycle is at right now, I think these higher up memers that have kind of made a name for themselves, I don't see why they would all of a sudden just drop off a cliff unless the market gets spooked. I mean, if we enter a bear market, all of a sudden meme coins are going to be the most devastated. And that's going to be fun too, because then you can just hodl shorts on the ones that you're able to. I think meme coins are going to be very fun to trade, but in the opposite direction when it comes bear market time, because in the bull market, you actually have to kind of get lucky with fundamentals and which ones actually take off as well. Whereas in the bear market, we know they're all getting nuked. Ooh, a TRX long, nice. Yeah, TRX is one that I have not looked at much. I have not followed it much. That's a big fumble of mine. I used to have a whole bunch years ago. TRX, ADA, and BNB would be my 3 regrets. Weekly close in less than 2 hours. Get the feeling Ethereum is going to dump into close and test 4K before higher if it holds. I have a feeling it's in the process of holding. I don't know. Like I said, Ethereum looks ready to break out on the daily to me. So I agree that it's possible it pulls back before sending higher, but I'm definitely not trying to catch that as a short position. I'm more so trying to get myself into more long positions, if anything. Leg up on BTC right now. Another buy signal. So notice technically this is one of those times where the MDX Trendmaster, a lower buy signal. However, notice that we did break above this sell signal. And that leads me to think that we broke some fairly serious resistance there. So I'm hoping to see Bitcoin just start trending higher now. It's some strength, in my opinion. The fact that this didn't just dump us off a cliff. Getting 2 sell signals like this, one slightly lower than the other so quick like that, that was signs of possible strong downside there. And the fact that it got invalidated really quick, I think that's some hidden strength. How I use trend dynamic. I do love trend dynamic, and I'll tell you exactly how I use it. I just like the colors. That is it. It's so pretty. Actually, sorry, that's not entirely true. There is one thing that I notice the odd time. Doesn't always work out, but just like how I use the buy signals, just like how I use the sell signals, noticing when the color, because these are momentum colors basically, right? So as you notice a trend direction and how that's happening as well, right? Here, for example, notice that we would every once in a while we'd start flipping to bright green, but then switching colors quickly and then going lower and bright green and then lower and bright green. So again, it's just a way of noticing which way a trend is showing up and using an indicator to confirm that. And it's not actually like, I don't know if that's anything. That's just something that I've noticed that sometimes you'll see those colors step in sooner, like on a downtrend when you're trending lower. Like right now, for example, we might be seeing some red candles showing up a little bit lower. So that might just be a bit of a red flag. But no, for the most part, I just like the way it looks. I try not to look too deep into that. Ooh, BMO, have a look at the DXY. I absolutely will. So obviously my original fib pull, we never quite got up to the 786, and that was months ago when I laid that out. And since laying this one out here, we've now set another lower low. So just adjusting my fib a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I really see no reason why the DXY needs to climb anytime soon. Also understand, I know quite often there's an inverse correlation, right? Where the DXY is dropping, so Bitcoin and crypto are climbing, and vice versa. That's quite often that is the case, but not always. But yeah, as far as structure goes on the chart, I see no reason why the DXY couldn't keep dropping a little bit further. We're starting to get close to a big 786 there, but haven't quite hit it yet. And then are we even going to end up holding that? You know, if we end up getting there, let's look for some random trend lines here. Oh, we're technically right at support right now. And being that that's a third exact touch point like that, I do want to say that that is a very valid trend line touch at this point. The thing is, now that it's touched a third time, it's not so much that, like, let's say this was crypto, it's not so much that I would be taking a long off of this right now, because I would actually rather see it swing fail where it just fakes out below real quick and then long the retest. However, just like what I was looking at in my Telegram months ago and on some of these streams with Bitcoin dominance, was an uptrend just like this. And after it was tested 3 times perfectly, then we saw it drop and go something like that. That's where it nuked very hard. Let's bring it up again. Right. So if we see that kind of a thing with the DXY now, it may drop off a cliff just like Bitcoin dominance did, right? And in which case, if that happens, yeah, I assume that I don't see it being a bad thing for crypto, right? I might see it as being a little bit bad for inflation in general. But yeah, I assume that would be just conditions for Bitcoin to continue thriving, or crypto in general. Yeah, guys, like Brian said, if you appreciate these videos, you appreciate me showing some of my personal trade strategies, taking a look at everything from Bitcoin to big altcoins to meme coins and the crap and everything in between, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Yeah, let me know if I know. I'd love to hear if some of you guys, if there's anything you've noticed either in the Telegram or on these streams, if there's something that I've said that have maybe helped something click in your own strategies, right? Maybe not just my trade strategies, but maybe it's just a different way of how you look at structure, or something that I said that really helped something fix or put one final piece into your own trading strategy puzzle. I would love to hear that kind of a story. But yeah, hopefully that the way I look at structure, the way I look at fibs and, retests and all that sort of thing, hopefully that stuff has been very beneficial to you guys, because I know that what's out there on social media so often is such hopium. And yeah, don't get me wrong, over time holding, you're generally going to do okay. But as far as actually trading, I mean, you need to understand market structure. Trading based on fundamentals. I literally only know one person who trades fundamentals extremely well. Other than that, every trader I know who does it well, it's always based on charts. So, I mean, it's just so important. So if you do appreciate this kind of content, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. And again, guys, if you do want more examples of my trade strategies, some of my trade setup ideas, more ideas or more examples of how I view market structure, and just if you want more of my thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor and get in my Telegram by scanning the QR code or clicking on the link in the description down below. The sign up bot should make things as painless as possible to get signed up to BloFin, which grants free access to my private group. And my partners at BloFin, guys, are actually currently giving new users this entry promo for another 5 days or so. So if that interests you, I will see you in there. But again, just to show you some examples, guys, of looking at this structure, right? Just looking at this is some of the content I was sharing just over the last couple of days. Just thinking that, hey, support could step in relatively early here because we do have that market structure. Boom, hit the first 2 take profits. Here's exactly when I was talking about, playing Ethereum rather than Bitcoin. Taking a look at some other trades, right? I had this, like I said, I had a couple setups on a couple different coins at the same time. We had this Ethereum setup, this Bitcoin setup. The Ethereum one exploded. The Bitcoin also played out. These are a little bit earlier, but just showing how I look at market structure, right? How I have my fib pull, I'm looking at laddering into a position, that sort of thing, and then them playing out. Not that they play out every single time, obviously. And I'm not sharing every single trade setup in there or anything by any means, but a lot of good examples in there. And yeah, trading's just like I said, if you're interested in looking at, actual market structure and learning how to wait for pullbacks and that sort of thing, guys, do yourselves a favor, get in there. That being said, I think I'm just about done here. Actually, sorry, I see a couple more requests in there. Okay, I'll do just a couple more, you guys. AVAX I see in there. Let's take a look at AVAX. I assume there's an older chart somewhere, but also I assume this chart structure would be the same. And yeah, notice where we are starting to find a little bit of support. That's actually on the weekly. Let's take a look at the daily for AVAX. So yeah, obviously, as far as the full range here, yeah, we're trading just above the 786 right now. So things, as long as the market's looking healthy right now, I see no reason why this would be any different. It just looks to me like we're basically forming support a little bit higher than we did last time, right? As we were trading support down here. I guess technically we did have this and we did lose this structure. So I think that move has already played out, because this is going to look very obvious to some of you guys. But if we lost that structure, right, our higher high, our higher low, we lost that, pull our fib, where do we get rejected? 786, boom, right back down to the bottom of the range. So again, seeing it on all sorts of time frames from both directions. So as it stands right now, I would consider this more so the range right now. And I don't like that we've been tapping away at this fail so much. And the fact that I have a hard time considering this a valid STUBER fib, you guys, on as far as the daily time frame goes. I know on the shorter time frames I'll see one. But my problem with this one right here is that we never broke this high back here, because if we broke that, then we would have had that momentum, right? We'd have that structure break showing that if we did get a pullback, it's likely going to be a higher low that gets set. It is still just assuming that it will be, but that's where you're looking for that pullback. Whereas right now, since we never broke that high, we set a lower high. It's not like it has fantastic momentum there. And I know, again, I'm not a fundamental guy or anything, but I assume it'll largely depend what the whole market does, right? If altcoins in general are going to climb, and I really think they will, then I assume this is going to be the same, right? Even if we just got a short-term pump, I see no reason why we wouldn't retest some sort of a resistance for a third time, right? See something like that, which would also, that would even be a 90% pump to the upside, right? A lot of theoreticals there, and what ifs. We don't know if it's going to happen for sure. But one thing that I would love to see on this, and where I think it would go absolutely nuts, something to watch for in the future, I suppose, would be if we get a third rejection on there and then break it and flip that, basically flip that resistance into support. But when I do look for breakout plays, like I was very vocal earlier that I don't really like breakout plays. I like more so waiting for those pullbacks. But in a situation like this, where you have a third touch point and then you start flipping that resistance into support, that's one way that I do like to play some breakout trades once in a while. So if we get that kind of a setup, then I think it's just absolutely set to explode, right? Where we'd probably get like a full range Probably end up getting a move, something like that, and then some if the market's going to continue, right? That would just be the first measured move, basically. But we'll see what happens there. I will zoom in. Obviously, that's the daily, so there's a lot that could happen in there. Let's take a look at the hourly. Trend master indicator. So this is one of those times where even if we get a sell signal here on this indicator, it's going to be a higher sell signal, in which case I assume that the bulls are going to step in early again. Because right now with this trend, yeah, I would even consider pulling a fib from somewhere up here. So yeah, even if we sell off a little bit here, I think to me, it looks like, especially with using this indicator, it looks like we have momentum rolling back to the upside there. So I like to see that. Link, I will also look at. Nice pump there. So, I mean, if there's a pullback, I would basically at this point, I would be pulling a fib, something like this. Just chasing the price. Yeah, it's obviously got a very strong uptrend to it. What's the 5-minute looking like? Slightly higher sell signal here, so that's a sign of strength. We still have higher trending buy signals, so I assume we're going to see another one here. If that ends up printing, I would consider taking a long on that with invalidation basically right below this. 2177 basically. But right now without that signal, I wouldn't really want to trust it yet. Still has this sell signal, whether it's a higher one or not. It's a bit of a red flag, right? Just for a shorter time frame like that. Gold. What is the... What even is the gold? I never look at it, so I can never remember what the main one is. See, Bitcoin is at the weekend high. Ooh, yeah. Look at that. See, still just staircasing nicely. And when I was talking about microstructure, right, the same thing. As soon as we set this trend here, so then we got a higher high, another higher high. As micro-analyzing as that is, just a wick like that, we never did break below that, right? Then another higher high. We never broke below that. Now another higher high. Never broke below that yet. So even on a very micro scale, you can still start to read structure a little bit. And obviously, if you're trying to trade that, it can switch very quickly on you. So you need to have your invalidations and, playing proper size ranges so you're not actually just, all your fees are just eating up your whole account, right? You don't want that to happen. So, but it's a good way of noticing when little trends like this break and just noticing a bigger range, right? There's always smaller ranges inside smaller ranges inside smaller ranges. That's always a thing. You just have to decide which ones you're actually playing, right? But yeah, Bitcoin still looking good. Like I said, that trend master, the fact that we got that higher buy signal, I think that's a beautiful sign of strength that the bulls stepped in early. Yeah, sure. I'll take a look at gold. Oh yeah, XAU. That's right. 33.93. That sounds about right, correct? That looks like the gold I know. Oh man, look at that trend. I mean, there was one lower buy here, but as soon as that lower sell got broken, it was just moonship on again. That is a serious trend on the daily. Oh my God. If you bought, oh boy, if you played this higher buy or even this last buy after let's say we broke that signal there, let's say you got in there. I mean, that's up 67%. I know to crypto folk that doesn't seem huge, but 67% on gold is absolutely massive, especially if you caught that with some leverage. Holy. So yeah, obviously a massive trend there. That's on the daily. As far as the structure on its own goes, I mean, there was technically a bearish STUBER. See, here's another thing, right? Even gold respects it. Actually, before I show you that, I shouldn't say it always does, because here's a failed one. Here we would have lost a higher low here. And then that one obviously would have got invalidated. But as I mentioned, I mean, not every trade setup is going to work out, right? But at least your losses are controlled in that case. But something like this, same thing, right? We ended up losing this little trend, high, higher low, pull a fib down to where we had bottomed here, hit the 786, and boom, right back to the bottom of the range, and then set a lower low. So if we just pull the fib, two different ways of approaching this. Either way, the same result happened, either just keeping the fib and extending it like that. And we ended up, hitting the fib again, hitting the first target, hitting the fib again, hitting the first target, hitting the fib again, or we drop it to the lower high on the trend. It still would be the same thing, right? We still never broke above the 115 or anything, so it was never invalidated. So same thing. In this case, you would have hit 3 entries and hit the first target. Hit 3 entries, hit the first target. Currently at 2 entries. The one thing, so unfortunately, there is a little bit of bearish structure there, right? Because that downtrend never did break yet. However, we are starting to test that pocket quite a bit. And generally speaking, the more you test resistance, the weaker it's going to get. So I'm just going to see if there's any. That was only a 2 touch point. I'm going to go something like this. I would, before I see it break out again, I want to see 3 exact touch points. And then a breakout like what I was talking about before. Obviously, it can just break right out. I mean, but just understand that right now there is resistance, and there is even these couple of, even though it's micro analyzing, these lower lows here. So this could technically turn into a downtrend, but I think momentum's going to be on its side. I think it's going to be some sort of a bull flag, if anything. Unless this all ends up flipping into Bitcoin, of course. September is going to be a massive month with the FOMC meeting. You know what? I totally agree. I don't trade based on fundamentals, but I understand that fundamentals will make volatility increase. I don't want to pretend that, hey, I know that these numbers mean that this is going to happen in the market. I just know that, hey, if this day there's this big important thing, start watching for which way structure starts breaking, and that you might see some volatility, right? I personally don't trade news or speeches or tweets or anything like that unless the structure of the charts actually matches up with it. Thoughts on Hype? I will check out Hype yet. I think that's the last one I got of me. Holy smokes, we've been going for a long time here. Getting tuckered. Throat's getting dry. Hype. I was just talking about this in my last stream, I believe. I don't know if that was the stream I did here or the one I did elsewhere on Thursday, but basically this is the range that I was looking at on Hype. We end, from Hype's beginning, we broke all-time highs, and we've just seen we're in price discovery, right? Hype is in a very good place because it's in price discovery. And the fact that we have been setting higher highs, right? Here we had a high, here we had a higher high. That's our higher low, the confirmed one, lowest point between the two. And notice that we came down not quite to the 786, but damn near, and already getting that recovery there. So bulls stepped in a little bit early, but same thing, got to the 0.5 fib, and now basically getting to the 0.214 fib. So that range has basically played out already. I believe momentum is on Hype's side. I mean, the trend master as well. This buy signal on the daily chart, and even when we lost it here, we just reclaimed it, closed another daily candle above it. So yeah, I mean, at this point, momentum's definitely on the bulls side. That's all there is to it. Notice same thing, right? Looking at this, how I was talking about pulling fibs before. So this was my higher buy signal on the trend. So where was the pivot? I was down here, and notice that that's where I had my fib pulled on that previous chart already, right? So we got a higher sell signal. So rather than looking to short something like that, I would just understand that we're probably going to pull back and set some sort of a higher low. And that's what happened. We get a higher buy signal, and it looks like the trend so far is going to continue. Love to see it. I think Hype looks so good. I've used the exchange a couple of times as far as a decentralized exchange. It's super nice to use. So I can see why they're doing well. Ethereum getting close to that 0.5 fib once again. Hoping it'll take off for me. Go for a little moon mission. Oh, Troll. I wanted to get a look on Troll once again. Since I bought back those extra, Troll has been performing so well. Trendmaster. Yeah, so even though it's a lower buy signal, we've actually broken the resistance that we formed from our last lower sell signal there. So yeah, if I hadn't bought back my position at this point, I would definitely be considering it now. Not saying it has to go straight up, but as far as that being more of an investment, and that was a coin accumulation strategy rather than a leverage trade. That being said, I am still in a 10x long on this from 9 cents. that trade, what is it up? Let me just check. Let me check my other account real quick. My 10x long on Troll, the average entry is 0.09805, and it's currently up 1,217%. that one's a funny one, just running. And if I am correct about this coin and being one of the top memers by the end of the cycle, then that'll be a hilarious trophy position, even though it's a smaller position because the volatility is crazy on this and it's dangerous and get liquidated. That's a funny position. A juicy one. A juicy funny. On the BTC dominance, I already looked at a couple times. Still dumping. Love to see it. On a 30-minute Bitcoin question, do we crack 120K? Seems to be the top of the channel. 120K is where I would consider resistance stepping back in, basically. Let me bring up the 30-minute. Basically, for me, at this point, well, I'll just go back to my 4-hour chart and erase a couple things to clean it up a little bit. But yeah, my purple box here basically starts at 120,000 US dollars. And that's just because that's my bearish STUBER fib. Pulled something like that. Again, it's not so much that I'm bearish because of that setup. It's just, I just got to acknowledge resistance for what it is. I don't think it's necessarily going to stop us, but if I was in any long positions, for example, I would be taking some profits at those levels because there's potential resistance there. If we get some sort of a swing fail at this level, I would consider shorting the retest with a tight invalidation, something like that. But I'm not desperate to get into any shorts, only if it's going to be just one of those setups where it's like, oh, this is a huge risk reward kind of a setup. Other than that, I'm just playing longs, basically. Longs on Ethereum, a little bit of Solana. But yeah, anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys found this stream useful. If so, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And as mentioned, if you want access to my private Telegram channel, my partners at BloFin are currently, they still have about 5 days running on this promotion for new members. But yeah, sharing lots of good ideas in there. So if that's something that interests you, just looking at market structure, how I pull my fibs, just some of my trade strategies, how I feel about the markets in general, do yourselves a favor, get in the group there. And yeah, if that all interests you, I will see you in there. With that, thank you so much for being here with me once again, my friends, and have a fantastic rest of your evening. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.